Hello, troublemakers, and thank you for stopping by the Mini Nerve. Today's Mini Nerve theme is all about one of my favorite subjects to go in on, the Kennedys. There's multiple things happening right now, and it's all very... Are we going to the woodshed? Are we going to the woodshed, maybe? I think we might be going to the woodshed. The first thing is there is a CNN documentary, and I saw this trailer, I want to say a month or so ago, and then I went looking for it online, and lo and behold, it is nowhere to be found. And I'm dying. I wanted to really show it to you because it's a documentary that is clearly going to depict JFK Jr. yet again as America's lost, last, best hope for the White House, which I can assure you he was not. It's going to depict him as the perfect son, sibling, husband. I can assure you he was not. It's going to depict him as a man of great consequence, seriousness, intelligence. I can assure you, as someone who wrote the book, okay, he is not. And I see this stuff and it really makes me angry. You know, the whole trailer, it's all Americana. It's all the Kennedy stuff. It's the flags. It's the water. It's Cape Cod. It's the father. It's the assassination. It's the, you know, it's all of it. And it just is such a fairy tale. It's such a fairy tale. And they're airing it. I don't even think this is like a significant, like, I think it's an odd year anniversary. You know, like it's not like a 25th. Last year, 2024, I think was the 25th anniversary of the plane crash that John killed himself, his wife, and her sister through his arrogance, recklessness, and what I believe, whether he was dialed into it or not, was a murder-suicide. The guy had a well chronicled death wish. It's in Ask Not. It's there. It's there to see. It's undeniable. But so, you know, America's going to be poisoned yet again with more bullshit. And, you know, we're a better and healthier country and population, and we're a better electorate for knowing the truth about these people, quite frankly. So, you know, reject the fairy tale. Reject it. I'll be watching it just to, you know, hate watch, but, and know the enemy. But there we go. We tried to get the trailer. CNN wouldn't give it to us. Wonder why. So then also this week, Ryan Murphy has been throwing a bit of a hissy fit because there have been, reels and stills, from his new project, which is called American Love Story. The story of JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. And when I tell you this was not a love story for the ages, it was not a fairy tale, it was more of a horror story. It was more of a horror story. But, you know, okay, here we go. So Ryan's making this series, and it's being shot on the streets of New York at the moment. And we're going to take a look at the actress playing Carolyn Bessette, sort of walking down like the streets of New York City with great determination. She has places to go and people to see, and she's got Calvin Klein to attend to, and she's getting jerked around by JFK Jr. And, you know, she's trying to nab him, grab the big fish, but, you know, it's not happening. And she's walking past a newsstand where they've reproduced the People magazine issue that was like cheering John on, like during his third attempt to pass the bar. The New York Times, or was it the Daily Mail, the Daily News had the great headline, "The Hunk Flunks." He couldn't pass this bar. He didn't have it. You know, his mother eventually arranged for some special dispensation, some special treatment. He eventually passed it, never wanted to be a lawyer. Anyway, so we're looking at Carolyn walking past the newsstand. And frankly, this looks like a Temu version of Carolyn Bessette Kennedy. Okay. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, very complicated woman. Let's look at this. I mean, she looks like the hair is not nearly thick enough, nuanced enough. The clothes look incredibly cheap. Uh, this is not, this is a very, there's the People magazine with the actor's face on it. I think they should have just used the original People magazine. They should have gone on eBay and bought the original vintage magazine and then had the art department work that up. And now, I mean, look, the someone at the cut said they thought, and this is the most unkind cut, that Carolyn, this actress's costumes look like she's looking at Mango and Zara. And Zara has some really good stuff. I'm just saying, like, this does not look like Carolyn wore Prada. The devil wears Prada. I'm not saying, but she was a complicated woman. Anyway, now multiple things. Carolyn Bissett's colorist was very famous in New York at the time she was on the rise, that she was becoming known as JFK Jr.'s girlfriend slash fiance slash intended slash bride slash America's princess, all the garbage. And he used to talk about this phrase was a barnacle in the lexicon in the 90s, her quote unquote buttery chunks. Now, I tried to talk to him for my book and he wouldn't do it, but he's talking now. He's talking to Vogue. And he has told, his name is Brad Johns, and he has said that after viewing that clip of actress Sarah Pigeon as Carolyn, he is offended. My words, not his. He said that they worked really, really hard to get the color right, and it was like a toffee blonde, and it's just not up to the level. Okay, it's mid at best. Now, Ryan Murphy has bashed per an interview in Variety. So the Cut's gone after them. Vogue is not very flattering at the moment. And also there's these screen tests online, which you have to look at. Like, look at the screen test for the actor playing JFK Jr. I mean, again, it's a Timu version. Whatever these people's flaws, JFK Jr. and Carolyn, they had star quality. They had magnetism. Okay, like you were brainwashed into thinking it's the province of like the entertainment industry only that attracts actors and musicians who have star quality and magnetism. Not so. These two are soggy toast compared to the real thing. I mean, look at this guy. And then he's going to take out of his pocket, he's going to take these little mini, I mean, he looks frankly ridiculous. John Jr. could pull this off. He would have like a Kangol hat, wearing it backwards. John Jr. could pull, here we go. I mean, I'm laughing inside. And now he's going to pull out these little sunglasses and put them on his face. They're like, and he looks like Ben Affleck as Daredevil. Okay, just get him the walking cane. Jesus Christ, who's the casting director on this thing? Okay, anyway, so the Cut took it down, and I went on like Australia Today had me on the other day to talk about this, and I was saying, like, where is the costume department here? Carolyn Bissett's clothes went up at auction at Sotheby's, I believe, like several months ago. And I know somebody who had some of those clothes and like put them up for auction. Carolyn had gifted her some pieces while she was alive. And, so go buy those clothes, go track down who bought them and get reproductions made. Call Prada. Now Ryan Murphy is very upset, not because people are thinking, well, he is upset, actually. I'm going to quote. He's in the comment section. You think these people aren't in the comment section? They're in the comment section. Ryan, there were comments like, I hate that coat. Carolyn would never have worn that. That was just a coat we threw on for color. People were writing, how dare you use the number 35 Birkin bag? She wore a 40. Yes, we have a 40, but we just threw on a bag from another. This all sounds like excuses. Okay. Then he goes on to say that he has enlisted a 10-person, quote, style advisory board to help reference and source Carolyn's wardrobe, but he can't release the names of these board members until they've all signed contracts. I think this is a very hastily assembled board in the aftermath of said media crisis. This is a crisis, people. Okay. Now he also feels that the criticism of the Timu versions of Carolyn and John are unfair, especially when it comes to Carolyn, because Carolyn was a victim like Princess Diana, and Carolyn really did think she was kind of Princess Diana, and everybody in her circle was like, you're fucking crazy, including her husband. Now Ryan Murphy says, like, she was constantly being photographed, being called a cunt by the paparazzi, and that they're doing to our Carolyn what they did to the real life Carolyn, and Ryan Murphy will not have it. So be warned, America. Oh, and he's also upset that Vogue didn't reach out to him for comment after Brad Johns went on the record after decades of keeping quiet. Murphy says the hairstylist couldn't even tell the difference between real hair and a wig because he insisted it was Sarah's real hair. It wasn't. It was a wig. Why didn't Vogue call us? Remember this when you're watching the JFK Jr. documentary on CNN. Remember, these are very serious people. Very serious people. Okay, now, also, I pulled this from 1997 because this was... We're gonna go to Jack Schlossberg, who is his return to Instagram. Remember when he said he was leaving Instagram for good? And I said to you guys, no, he's not. He'll be back in 5 minutes. He was back in 5 minutes. So we're gonna get to him. But oh my God, Brad Johns in 97 was giving tons of interviews about how he, concocted those buttery chunks for Carolyn Bessette. And then Carolyn Bessette flounced off because she was like, you're using me for publicity, even though she was marrying the most famous bachelor on the planet. I mean, get real, lady, get real. So then anyway, JFK Jr. is like, I'm going to sue you. I pulled this up from like SF Gate. November 6, 1997, JFK Jr. is going to sue. He's being a gallant husband. Mr. Kennedy said the quote, a spokesman for the young Kennedys. Mr. Kennedy does plan to take legal action to ensure that Brad Johns stops using Carolyn's name, particularly because she is no longer a client of his. Again, very serious. So now let's look at Jack, who has inserted himself into this Ryan Murphy production on Instagram. We're going to break it down. We're going to break it apart. So first look at this.
Hey everybody, I'm Jack. Lately, my newsfeed has been filled with pictures of my uncle, John F. Kennedy Jr., a great man.
Listen, JFK Jr. was not a great man. If you ran into him on the street or at a gala or an event or in an elevator, he was a nice guy. He was a personable guy. He was a charismatic guy, but he was not a great man. Great men don't recklessly get into airplanes and bully their wife to come along and take her sister along and do what he did. You can read all the details in the book, but that is not a great man. And by the way, he accomplished nothing in his life, okay? He started a magazine and it sucked and nobody read it. And it was on the verge of closing for good when he took off in that plane. And he was on the verge of divorce. He hadn't accomplished a goddamn thing, okay? He was JFK Jr. He was famous for being famous. Okay, Jack? Let's look at what you have to say next.
For those wondering whether his family was ever consulted or has anything to do with the new shows being made about him, the answer is no. And there's really not much we can do.
So, this must be a real heartbreak because the Kennedy family is used to trying to squelch and kill any project that they don't like, any project that runs counter to their image. I've talked about my Maria Shriver story before on like an earlier episode of The Nerve and Ask Not. And there was also a miniseries that was done by, I believe, Joel Surnow. He was famous for the show 24, the excellent Kiefer Sutherland show 24. And he and his producing partner had a Kennedy's miniseries, and Maria and Caroline Kennedy got wind of it. And then they went right over to that network or that production office and they said, shut it down. We don't like it. And they did. So fuck off, Jack. Fuck off. Your family is public property, okay? And it always has been. And the only reason anyone pays attention to you, you entitled little shit, is because of your family name. That's it, okay? Now let's hear what else he has to say.
See, the right to privacy, which includes the ability to control your own name, image, and likeness, doesn't survive death in the state of New York. And for that matter, he's considered a public figure, so there's not much we can do.
You know, Jack is a lawyer, but I can tell him as a journalist that like dead people can't be defamed and libeled in the country. He's showing off his legal knowledge, you fucking asshole. And there's not much we can do because he's a public figure and there's nothing we can do. And, you know, so, and I'm going to explain to you dummies out there, you know, what it is to have a public image or be a public person or be a dead famous person and not be able to control your image because you're dead. Fuck off. Okay. Next up, Jack, who I believe is a failed actor. I think he's a failed actor. He's also a failed political columnist. Okay. Vogue turfed him after his embarrassing coverage during the last presidential election when he was asking Doug Emhoff with David Letterman whether he thought ketchup was a seasoning or a condiment. Let's listen to Jack Schlossberg warn Ryan Murphy that he should take his uncle seriously. Watch this.
But I hope those making these shows about him take seriously what he stood for in his life, all that he achieved in it.
Again, JFK Jr. stood for nothing except a good time. He was a hot guy. He was a womanizer. He was a modelizer. He liked to party. He liked being famous. He didn't want to be a lawyer. He tried to start a magazine. That didn't go so well. He didn't stand for anything. Can you find a speech of JFK Jr.? Like, he wasn't out in the streets. He wasn't his Uncle Bobby working against, you know, poverty in America. He wasn't working for civil rights. He sat on a few boards. The guy was not a great man. And that is not to be offensive. It's just the truth. He was an empty suit. He was an empty suit, and he never should have been president, ever. This country, I don't mean to sound crass, but we dodged a bullet, you know? Now, here's Jack. This part he cut out, but I saw it originally, and it's in the Ryan Murphy piece too. So he's gonna, I'll tell you what it is when we watch this last part, okay? Let's look.
And that they donate some of the profits to what they're making. For the record, I think admiration for my Uncle John is great. What I don't think is great is profiting off of it in a grotesque way. Thanks.
He's such an asshole. For the record, I think, you know, whatever about my Uncle John, admiring my Uncle John is great. Like, yeah, of course you fucking do, you know? But what he cut out of there was the original post, he was saying that they should donate the profits from this to the JFK Library in Boston. Now, I'm going to guess he was told to cut that out probably because the JFK Library gets federal funding, gets some taxpayer funding. But like every Kennedy, the Kennedys are notoriously cheap. They don't like to pay for anything. And in fact, they're always like, gimme your money, give me your money, give me your money. You know what, Jack? Why don't you get a job? Okay, why don't you get a real job instead of fucking around on Instagram all day? You're a 32-year-old man. Have some self-respect. Have some dignity. You want to be remembered like a great man? It's not going to be through Instagram, you loser. Catharsis. Catharsis. That's it. That's it for today's mini nerve. It flew. It flew. But we will be revisiting all this and more on future editions of The Nerve, okay? So, troublemakers, please, let's reconvene back here at our non-safe space on Tuesday at The Nerve, where you will never guess what we're about to say next.